Hey, good morning. Top of the morning. It's going to be a great day. That's my little homage to Steve from the Time Spiders, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch on YouTube. I think he does a fantastic job of explaining things and tinkering with radios. He doesn't seem to really be a restorer. Although I've seen him do um, full recaps and some cosmetic stuff. He doesn't seem to be very big on cosmetics, but um, he does know his stuff, and he has some pretty interesting pieces of equipment that he plays around with and tinkers with. This I wanted to do a video on this radio. I'm not going to go through features, functions, performance specs, anything like that. This radio has a story to tell. This radio has a story to tell unlike no other that I have seen. Maybe I'm a little partial because I've owned this radio since, according to my logs, 1978, when my father gave it to me. My father bought this radio in 1946, brand new, as a teenager. And during a 15-month cosmetic restoration, electronic rebuild, mechanical rebuild, it was discovered that this radio was likely one of the first 100 that our friends at Hallicrafters had built. In case you haven't noticed, this is a Hallicrafters SX-42. I think this emblem and script is on here in case I forget which radio this is, based on the size of the radio. It is I think they have it at 55 pounds. Somewhere I had seen online that this was a 70-pound radio. Having carried it a few times, I think it's closer to 70 pounds. It is a beast. It is an absolute beast. But as you're going to see in this video, it is a magnificent beast. Alright, so I really hate unboxing videos. I absolutely hate them. They're a waste of time. I think this one might be a little bit better. Let's call this a unveiling video. I'm going to turn the flash on my phone here, and let's see if we can get a better view. Okay, let there be light. We're going to unveil this magnificent radio. I'm going to go through what's been done on it. I'm only going to provide a fraction of it. Let me assure you, this radio was restored by a man. I'm not going to give his name because I more or less lured him out of retirement for this job. And he had already restored one of these, which became his own, a daily driver. But when I saw the amount of attention and the attention to detail he had paid to his, I knew I found the guy for the job. So let's take a look. And there it is. I just think this is one of the most beautiful pieces of post-war industrial design. The gentleman who designed the front panel, his name was Raymond Loewy, and Mr. Loewy designed the Studebaker, I think it's the Avanti It's a sports car. He designed a few other models for Studebaker. He designed the look of the plane Air Force One that the president flies in to this day. And to me, this radio is the perfect marriage of form and function. So we'll go through a few features. Okay, so left to right, you have the band switch. Now, if you have one of these, this radio was in storage. I bought the house 20 years ago. The radio was never fired up or powered in that time. If you have one of these radios and you're thinking about having it restored, do not turn this radio on. What you'll do, this band switch is the nerve center to the radio, and just about every circuit inside the radio feeds itself into this band switch. The band switch goes all the way, the mechanism goes through the back of the radio. I guarantee you that if you turn this on unrestored with original capacitors and original resistors, tubes, what have you, you'll fry this band switch. You'll get arcing, you'll get smoke, and that brings up another good point. If you see one of these on eBay and the person gives the typical, I know nothing about radios, but it powers on and the lights come on, do yourself a favor, run away from that radio, because the chances are pretty darn good it's already fried. So here's your main tuning dial. Hallicrafters post-war inscription with the logo. This radio was a pretty neat thing back in the day. Hallicrafters built a whole factory in Chicago dedicated to its manufacture, and this logo replaced the old one. So they did everything soup to nuts, and beginning with this receiver. Main tuning, band spread tuning. The lock knob, this knob had been unfortunately knocked off during that move I mentioned. These things are virtually impossible to find. I was able to find a gentleman online who had some extras. It was not cheap, but I had to have it. This radio would not be complete without this lock knob. And when I demo this radio, I'll show you the kind of the theory behind it and a little bit about how it works. It even has, as you can see here, has the lock inscription showing you the right way to turn this knob when you engage it. And when you engage it, you switch between main tuning and band spread tuning. That first lock is going to lock up the main tuning and engage the band spread tuning. Volume control with power goes to 10. Mine goes to 11. There's no reason why this radio can't go to 11, and just look at it. It glistens. Automatic volume control, which you can leave on or turn off. Noise limiter, which works pretty good. You can switch it on or off. Standby and receive. This is really handy if you want to power the radio up and let it stabilize for maybe 45 minutes or so, so you don't get a lot of thermal drift, if you're trying to lock on to weak stations. Selectivity. You've got 3 settings for your AM, CW, but then you also have selectivity for crystal phasing, which is above it. And this can be really helpful for, almost works like a notch filter. And you've got broad, medium, and sharp. We'll go back to sharp. In the AM CW mode, reception modes, CW, AM, FM for our FM bands, and phono works as an auxiliary input. I use it to plug in a iPod, and it works extremely well. This was back in the day. This was for a I guess you'd call it a ceramic filter. So today that seems to match really nicely with the impedance and the strength for an iPod. So that's my auxiliary. If I was going to hook up a turntable to this, I'd probably use something like the Audio-Technica, the AT120, which has a switchable output between using an external preamp or using the built-in preamp. I'd probably use the built-in preamp and then plug it in to there if I want to listen to my turntable through it. Tone control, low, medium, hi-fi, and then bass. And we're going to do a demo of the sound here. The sound on this radio is mind-blowing. It uses a matched pair of 6v6s in a push-pull configuration, and it gives you a warm, chocolatey tube sound. I can't even say tube-like because they're real tubes. Sensitivity, I normally keep it at 10. I can take it down if I want to. This is really helpful if maybe you're getting stations nearby that are just, too strong and you want to turn the sensitivity down, or maybe you have something a real strong signal that you think might be loading the front end up a little bit. You can turn your sensitivity down. And then CW pitch, real handy for varying the tone for CW and for single sideband. We're going to look at next at an incredible S meter. This is Radio Australia coming in at, I believe, 9580, early morning on the east coast of North America. These guys have been using this frequency now for decades and decades. It's a pretty good signal. It has a little bit of fading. I think we're coming in at, it's peaking at about S9 or so. Here's all my dial settings. Pretty basic.
I'll recognise as well when they travel to the States. People just love them. Love jumping at them. People like the one and only time jump. Actually, we might have time jump too a little later tonight. So good reminder.
Okay, so we're picking up some single sideband here. I've got the BFO on. I do have my crystal phasing turned on and the selectivity set to medium. I've got the sensitivity up all the way. I tried a few different things, a few different ways of tuning single sideband in on this radio. It is not the easiest thing to do. These radios did not have product detectors, so it's a very manual process. It's always a good idea to let the radio warm up before trying this. I did it maybe for about half hour, 45 minutes or so, and it seems to stabilize. So let me see if I can turn this up. You can see it already drifted out a little bit. So this is the method I use. Let's see if we can get that station back. Okay, so this seems to be some type of ham radio net down on 80 meters. I am copying single sideband, and it's coming in pretty good. I had to tweak around with my crystal phasing, of course, and
I don't blame you.
here we go.
Oh, you didn't like it?
And you can hear he sounds like in real English and not in Donald Duck.
My stepdad bought it back in 1969, bought a Mercedes, and it's the worst car he ever had.
Wow.
It was exactly for what you said. It handled great, it stopped great, but man, I'll tell you, it was in the shop with something all the time.
I don't think a Mercedes is a bad car, but some folks will get one bad item, and let's say they had a bad SX-42, they might think that the entire line was bad. But the trick to this here, I engaged my band spread tuning, and what you can do is get on one of the designated calibrated bands from the amateur frequencies, set your lock clockwise, and what that does is that locks your main tuning knob. This knob here, your band spread, now becomes your tuning knob. I'm not going to say fine tuning knob because I've seen some folks online refer to this as fine tuning. This is not fine tuning. What this does is this engages this dial here, which is called a calibrated band spread. This is a second tuning condenser, and what this does is it allows you to, exactly what it says, spread out the band. And it makes it a lot easier to copy these stations and to lock onto them. So this is working pretty good. I can still
Around the perimeter of the filter, like that would catch it.
There we
You
go.
know what I'm saying? It's like one of them spill things all around the
It
filter.
really works well, but it takes a lot of patience and a lot of trial and error. So here's my S meter coming up to life, and we're going to take it out of standby, and you'll get to see this thing in action. Take it down to the AM band, and oh, I've got band spread on. We need to take this off. We're going to zero it out, and we're going to lock it again. Now we've got main tuning on. But let's take a look here. Turn the sensitivity up. Put our selectivity to medium. Oh. Put this into the AM mode. There we go. Okay. So I calibrated this S meter. I'm probably going to do a separate video on how to calibrate this thing, because Hallicrafters has a very specific way of calibrating it. So now we're down on the AM band, and you can see it's very responsive. It does exactly what it needs to do, and it looks so cool lit up. You can see a little bit behind, it looks like an outlay. On the inside, there's a pillbox. Hallicrafters was nice enough to put a little cardboard box, more or less, on the inside. And what that does is it shields the wires so you don't accidentally touch them while this thing is powered up, because if you do, you'll get a jolt. And you can see the outline of that original cardboard box. It's kind of backlit right there, but look at that meter. It's just amazing. And next we're going to look at FM, and I'll show you how to tune that, how to use the S meter for FM, and it's really, really handy. So it's Veterans Day weekend, 2016, and unfortunately, the Christmas, all the time stations are already up and running, and I'm sure this is piping through the stores, and Christmas year round, and it's another topic for another video, but it makes me nauseous, it makes me ill. But we're going to use this station. Hopefully the YouTube copyright police won't get on us for Winter Wonderland here. So it looks like Johnny Mathis, who's pretty great. But you can see here, we've got our tuning. Well, our FM tuning now is a little bit off, but we want to try to get that meter, in this case, on the FM band. We want to get this to 0, and there we are. When we get this to 0, we know that the station is tuned in the way it should be. Interestingly, when you have this radio on and you're listening to FM, let's say you just turned it on and you tuned in a station, after a few minutes, you'll watch that needle it will actually drift, and you have to play with it a little bit. But about a half hour after playing with it, you'll be able to stabilize the radio. It will get at the right temperature, and it will maintain that temperature. So just keep your eye on that meter, I'd say for that first half hour or so, and you should be good to go, certainly for FM. Okay, so going left to right, this is a little bit of history on the radio. These are copies of original Hallicrafters ads from 1946. The first run of 100 of these radios was built in October of 46. This ad here was in Radio News in October of 46. And the copy line, the marketing line is, the first 100 sets are the hardest. So going back to the history and the prominence of this radio, and like I had mentioned earlier, this radio technically is a one-owner radio. My dad brought it brand new in October of 1946. During restoration, the man who rebuilt the radio noticed a little inscription on the chassis, and that had a date of October 25th, 1946. So that, coupled with the fact that the radio was unmolested except for a couple of capacitors my dad had changed. I think he changed one choke and changed some vacuum tubes. But the radio was unmodified, unmolested. During the rebuild, those modifications were incorporated into the circuit and rebuilt based on the Hallicrafters specs. And what they did is they gave the radio better sensitivity and better image rejection, because it's a single conversion super heterodyne, and that's at 455 kilocycles, or what we call today kilohertz. So the radio is just a fantastic performer. This is the matching R42 reproducer, and these things, of course, eBay, someone has something from 1946, they don't know radios, but they know how much they think to ask for these things. This is actually one that I bought. I bought this reproducer last year off of, I think the name of the site is QTH. I didn't buy this off of eBay, and for a couple of reasons. It was a lot less expensive, And it was a ham radio operator. He was a single owner himself. You can see the little emblem here. They did everything so nice. I mean, even like this logo. I'm guessing that's like I don't know, a brushed aluminum or maybe a stainless steel. But this is a bass reflex speaker. That was a big deal back in the day. It's ported right where these grills are. And then you've got a built-in crossover for all you capacitor freaks out there and wanting to shotgun every capacitor in a radio or in a speaker. Rest assured, this has been recapped. You have a 2-position setting, one for communications, which is great for shortwave or AM, and high fidelity, which I'm telling you, on FM, it is the best sounding FM stereo I have ever heard. It is just mind-blowing how good this thing sounds. I think next we're going to pop the hood. Okay, here she is with the hood popped. I think this radio, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and there might be 1 or 2 more tubes hidden somewhere. It's 13 or 15 vacuum tubes. The 6v6s, which are up front here, these are groove tube 6v6s. The GT designations means they're glass tubes with the frosted inner, but really you can use any 6v6, but these are a matched pair. The rectifier right here, when I brought this radio to have it restored, it had a solid state rectifier that my dad and I built when I was a teenager. For some reason, these had become very expensive, and what we did was, I said to my dad, this was before the internet, I said, Dad, I'm looking at these rectifier tubes in the magazines, and they're really expensive. So my dad, who was an engineer and working for a great company at the time called Microwave Associates, which is now still in business, called Maycom, he put on his Yankee ingenuity hat, and we designed a solid state rectifier with a socket that matched this. It worked like a charm, as most of my dad's stuff did. The only mistake we made, and I don't think it was a big mistake, but when I dropped this radio off for the restoration, the gentleman doing the work said, you guys did a fantastic job. It's got all spaghetti tubing and heat shrink tubing, and it's wired correctly, but we didn't put a dropping resistor on. So this radio worked on a solid state rectifier, but the voltage was a little too high, and it wasn't run very long after we did that. I just, I wanted it to work, and then I didn't bring this to college with me, but the radio did work with a solid state rectifier, which is kind of cool. They put this plate on as a shielding. This covers the condensers for the main tuning and the band spread tuning. And you see it's got these nice little screws on here, which you can unfasten. I'm not going to loosen these, but if you wanted to service the tuning condensers. This is your power supply. As you can see, Hallicrafters dressed it up with a beautiful bell housing that has the Hallicrafters logo on it. They just went they went berserk with this radio. They did just such a beautiful job. A little attention to detail right here. You've got the shielding, which, as far as I can tell, this diffuses the dial lamps, and it also keeps you from poking your fingers in here. Like I said, you've got some high voltage on this side near the S meter, so does a nice job of shielding that. But that's it with the bonnet popped. I guess our friends in the UK would prefer that I call this a bonnet instead of a hood. Over in the US, we call this a hood. Or we'll close it up. This was all bead blasted, refinished. The cabinet bead blasted, refinished. This beautiful, beautiful front face, as you've seen, that was stripped, professionally painted, silk screened using a program, a computer program, a man who has restored, I guess, several SX-42s. We're able to send it down to him. He's the same man who set me up with the lock knob for the band spread main tuning. But you can see here, well, I'm going to turn my light on here in a minute. This thing, it absolutely glistens. Okay, so 7:07 East Coast. Of course, in New England we have horrible lighting. It's painful. I've done some photography as well, and there's a story about Ansel Adams leaving New England in frustration. He was going to, I guess, do some photography here, and the color temperatures are so bluish and so harsh. He left in a huff. But this is the original panel. Like I said, all painted, silk screened, refinished. Before being restored, there was some rust that was starting around the main tuning housing, and cosmetically it had seen better days. So that was all treated, scraped out before the repaint. This thing's probably better than brand new. I'm almost afraid to touch it. It just looks so nice. You can see all the knobs polished up. The restorer used, I think it's one of the Novus 2 or something like that. The main tuning, all dials, all the dials were polished. It just glistens, even the main tuning. You know, I hate to show these things off, but some things just need to be shown off, and this radio is one of them. So I think we're going to finish this video with a few stories about the radio. Okay, in conclusion, I'm going to try to finish off this video and hopefully not shed a few tears. I can be very emotional. This radio is a true family heirloom. I had mentioned earlier my dad bought this brand new in 1946. He was 15 years old. 15 years old. And he bought this radio brand new. He mowed lawns. My dad had a exceptional mind, mechanically, electronically. He would restore, well, I guess back then you didn't call them restorations, you called them repairs or rebuilds. He worked on motorcycles for my neighbors. There's a story of him, I guess it was around the summer where he started saving up for this radio. He had worked on someone's motorcycle, get the engine running the way it should, took it around the block and opened up the throttle, gave her too much gas, and blew through a neighbor's fence, and I get to show my son the neighborhood where my father lived, his home, and we looked up into his third-story window, and I can just imagine my dad as a teenager listening to this radio. But we got to see the fence, which had since been rebuilt. My dad rebuilt the fence for his neighbor. But next to, we'll go back to the 42, but I just wanted to show you here. Next to the 42, I have this little guy, and we're going to do probably an unveiling in a future video. This is my Hallicrafters S38, which also belonged to my father. And this underwent a pretty nifty restoration. It's an absolutely beautiful little radio. Obviously, Hallicrafters entry level compared to the 42, which was their top of the line. There's some era specific cans or headphones with the high impedance and the dual plugs, but we'll look at this in a future video. But going back to the 42, this radio, as I mentioned earlier, we think was one of the first 100 ever built. My dad, I'm just thinking he saw previews. The radio magazines of the day would put advertising, a few months before a radio was introduced, or in this case, several months. There was a big hype around this radio. It was the first post-war industrial design. This radio, the design was the first of its kind. The first piece of electronics to win a coveted Industrial Design Award from MoMA, the Museum of Modern Arts in New York. And our friend Mr. Lowy, as you can see, his industrial design was without parallel. I don't know a more beautiful radio of its era than this SX-42. My dad still is and was a ham radio operator. This was his daily driver for a number of years. I have his logbooks. He heard literally hundreds of countries on this radio. I found my logbook last week. I picked up well over 100 countries, many countries that no longer exist. But my father in 1957 heard Sputnik on this radio. Sputnik was the Russian satellite, the first man-made object ever launched into space, and it sent a little homing beacon, and my dad picked up Sputnik on this radio. But this radio went through the rise of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, also heard the fall of communism and the fall of the Berlin Wall. I would show you the back. I can show you the back of the radio. There's really not much to see. We'll take a quick peek back there. Okay, here's the back of the radio. Your audio transformer is behind this assembly inside the chassis. You don't want to open this lid and touch these wires while the power is on. It's just a safety precaution. There's my audio input for the phonograph. You can see I've got a adapter plug. I'm playing a tablet on there right now. Adjustment for my S-meter for calibrating it, and there is a specific procedure that we've got in the owner's manual. I've got the original manual, which I'll show you in a minute. Serial number with the plate, antenna jack, ground jack, My dad loved putting on BNC connectors on these things. The BNC connector works, and then there's an adapter for coaxial. And you can see it right here. There's one of the label peeled off, but there's one of the original labels. I think at the time you left that label on, and if you wanted to do any adjusting through these holes, you'd pop that label off. But that's the original one from 1946. So one more segment, and I'll conclude this video. So finishing up, of course, there's tons of information on Hallicrafters and on the SX-42 online. But if you want to go old school and you want to pick up a great book, the pricing on here is, of course, is out of date. But this is Radios by Hallicrafters by Chuck Dotchis. I've actually I've emailed Chuck a few times. I sent him some photos of this radio and shared with him some stories about the prominence of the radio. This is the original owner's manual, all original. This was my dad's. And service bulletin. This has a complete parts breakdown. I'll show you in here. My dad made a few notations. There's, I'm guessing, a couple of parts he had replaced. All the parts. There's a schematic in the back, but here's the alignment procedure. Of course, when everything was finished, technician did a full alignment on this radio. Here's the schematic. Even by today's standards, this is not an easy radio. And if you're thinking about restoring one of these, do yourself a favor, hire someone to do it right. There are people out there. In this case, my restorer had already done an SX-42 and did a magnificent job. So I would say find an experienced technician. There's a lot of mechanical things in the radio, the gear assembly for the main tuning and the band spread. You want to find someone who really knows what he's doing, who's going to know how to lubricate those gears, restring the band spread dial string. Everything else in it, everything else in the main tuning is mechanical. But you'll see here my father's notes. At one time he had replaced some of the tubes, 6 AG5s with 6 BC5s. So, and then that's the back of it. The owner's manual, we'll go through this. Mr. Halligan. Hallicrafters is a abbreviation of Halligan Handcrafters. So that's where he came up. Bill Halligan came up with Hallicrafters, and he would put like a little bit of a story in here congratulating you on your purchase. They had a lifetime warranty. Hallicrafters is no longer in business, but here's their copy of the warranty. Index, beautiful pictures. I mean, for 1946, they went crazy with this stuff. Showing the tuning. This is interesting right here. The original design had a black wraparound over the tuning bezel. They apparently decided to take that out because I've never seen that on an SX-42. I have seen that on the SX-43, which is a less expensive, I guess, less featured version of the 42. Instructions on how to run it on a Viber pack or batteries. Believe it or not, it can be battery driven. How to wire up my phono or external input. S-meter calibration and tone curves. And then the layout. There's our tube layout. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm going to say 15 tubes. I might have counted one of these twice here, but I'm going to say 15 tubes. Remote control operation, and I guess this is to put it in standby mode if you're running this with the transmitter, and then the back of the manual. So that's my walkthrough. This radio is my pride and joy, and thank you so much for joining me this morning and taking a walkthrough on my SX-42. I love this radio. See ya.